What would you do if I told you that everything you've learned about meditation is incomplete? What if access to other realities wasn't in the mind, but in the body, and not even in the whole body, but in a single bone, an ancient, overlooked and sacred bone, a bone that ancestral cultures revered without words, and which you probably don't even feel? This video is not just another mystical story, it's a revelation. We're going to explore a practice as powerful as it is forgotten. It's not about visualizing, imagining, or even sitting in silence. It's about moving the body in a way that opens portals. Yes, portals, because there are movements that not only stretch muscles, but awaken memories. The bone we'll talk about was once called the throne of the soul. It's located in your spine, but it doesn't behave like the rest. It's strong and dense like a ceremonial stone, and at the same time it's the vessel of a fire that never goes out. The ancients didn't discover it in books, but in dances, in ritual walks, in silences shared under the moon, in ceremonies where the soul was not discussed and it was felt. In this first part of the video, I'll take you to the threshold of that knowledge. We'll explore the mystery of that bone. I'll tell you how I found it, how I felt it awaken within me, and why I believe that small physical gateway can shift your entire perception of the world. Because true spirituality isn't about ascending, it's about descending. Not about rising out of the body, but inhabiting it so deeply that the veil between worlds becomes thin. That's what the ancients did. They didn't meditate. They moved this bone and entered. You're about to discover which bone this is, why its movement is a hidden key, and how you can begin to experience it for yourself. But first we'll travel back to the roots, to the caves, to the myths, to the bodies of sages who danced without theory and let the body, not the mind, guide them beyond the visible. Prepare yourself. What you're about to hear is not a modern technique. It's an ancient echo, a truth that has always lived inside you and is finally beginning to move. In ancient cultures, where wisdom wasn't written but transmitted through the body, there was sacred knowledge that faded with the rise of reason as the only authority. Knowledge that wasn't passed down through words or dogma, but through body memory, through the silent language of bones, gestures, and breath. Among all the elements of the human body, one was considered the most sacred of all, the sacrum. And it's no coincidence that its name still preserves that root, sacred. This bone, located at the bottom of the spine at the base of the pelvis, is a triangular structure that connects with the earth but also with the sky. The ancients considered it the anchor of vital energy, the point where consciousness could be awakened, not through thought but through movement. And not just any movement, ritual, intentional vibrational movement. In African traditions, wise elders and walkers between worlds performed spiral dances that shook the base of the spine. They didn't dance for artistic expression, they danced to open inner portals. In those vibrations, a phenomenon occurred. The energy began to rise like an ancient fire, awakening dormant zones of perception. In Mesoamerica, Nahualism taught that certain movements, repeated with devotion, reactivated an original code in the body. Though they didn't name it using Western anatomy, they knew everything began from the base, from a point they considered the throne of the spirit. They didn't do asanas, they didn't seek silence, they moved the axis. Even in Egypt, the art of resurrection wasn't just spiritual. Funerary rituals placed special attention on the spine and its base, as they believed the soul returned through the Jed pillar, symbol of the life axis, closely linked to the sacrum and its vertical energy. What was meant to remain upright wasn't the body, it was consciousness. And later, in certain medieval occult traditions, alchemists referred to the sacrum as the crucible of the spirit in flesh. They said the serpent of memory slept there, not a demonic serpent, as later distorted by religious visions, but a symbol of primordial energy that, when released, granted vision, strength, and direct connection to the hidden reality. But why, if it was so important, did we stop talking about it? Because the knowledge of the body as a temple was suppressed. Because understanding that within you lies a natural mechanism to expand. Consciousness does not benefit systems of control. Because if you can access other realities without intermediaries, dogmas or structures, then you are free. And the sacrum, that forgotten bone, holds that capacity to set you free from within. To move it is not physical exercise, it's alchemy in motion. This is the point where spirituality becomes tangible, where technique becomes ritual, and where the body, far from being a prison, reveals itself as the true portal. Imagine for a moment that your body is not just a biological structure, but sacred architecture. Not a container, but a tool. Each joint, each bone, each vibration operates like a cosmic mechanism. Now imagine that within that architecture, there's a forgotten command center, a place from which not only vital energy can be activated, but also the ability to cross the threshold between the visible and the invisible. That place is the sacrum, and moving it consciously is not a form of exercise. It is a ritual act. Hidden wisdom teaches that the sacrum is like a vibrational key. When it is activated, it begins to emit a specific frequency that awakens dormant pathways in the nervous system, stimulates areas of the brain that are usually inactive, and alters the way consciousness interprets reality. We are not talking about fantasy. We are talking about expanded perception. Most people live trapped in the upper mind, as in thoughts, judgments, ideas. Some manage to descend to the heart, but very few have gone all the way down to the sacrum. And why descend? Because the upward movement of energy does not begin in the mind. It begins at the root. The sacrum is the primordial drum. When it moves, it sets the rhythm of an energetic symphony that rises up the spine, flows through the chakras, and culminates at the crown. But here lies the secret. If you don't activate the drum, there is no symphony. How is the sacrum moved? It's not about shaking it roughly or applying a rigid technique. The movement is circular, wave-like, serpentine, as if you were drawing invisible spirals in the air with your pelvis. Ancestral dance knew this. The hips didn't move for sensuality. They moved for awakening. Every pelvic movement sends a pulse that directly impacts the sacrum, and when that pulse is sustained, rhythmic and conscious, the bone begins to vibrate. That vibration doesn't feel like a physical tremor. It's subtler. It feels like an expansion from within, a gentle warmth, a sensation that something is beginning to stir in the very foundations of your being. It's in that moment that the body begins to remember, not ideas, but how it feels to be alive from the source. And it doesn't end there. As you repeat the movement with devotion, not with force, you begin to notice changes in your breathing, in your mental state, in how you perceive space. Time slows down. Attention becomes naturally present. And eventually, if you persist, something even deeper begins to happen. Reality starts to open. People who have practiced this technique report that after just minutes of conscious sacral movement, they begin to experience non-ordinary perceptions, inner lights that don't come from the environment, subtle sounds arising within the skull, a sense of unity with everything, and in more advanced cases, spontaneous visions, archetypal memories, or brief entries into other dimensions of consciousness. This is not about imagination, it's about vibrational access. The most important thing to understand here is that you are not generating anything new. You are removing interference. You are activating a forgotten function. The sacrum is the sacred drum of the soul. And when you strike it with conscious movement, everything within you begins to dance. Once the sacrum has been activated and its vibration begins to expand, the entire body enters a state that ancient traditions described as the threshold. This is not a hypnotic trance or mere relaxation. It is a profound alteration of the field of perception. In this state, the line that separates the internal from the external, the real from the symbolic, begins to blur. What opens here is not just an energetic experience, it is a portal, and this portal does not lead somewhere beyond, as popular religions might suggest, but to a simultaneous dimension, always present, yet inaccessible in the ordinary state of consciousness. Initiates of ancient knowledge schools, whether priestesses of the Temple of Isis, Toltec sages or Druidic mystics, knew that activating the sacrum was not a game, because what awakens is not just energy, but interdimensional memory. The body remembers things the mind cannot process, places you never physically visited, knowledge you never studied, archetypes that emerge as living forces. Many describe encounters with beings of light, moving symbols, living geometries, and even a sense of being absorbed by a greater intelligence that doesn't speak with words, but teaches through presence. And in those moments, something radical happens. identity begins to dissolve, not to disappear, but to transform. The habitual self, the one with your name, your story. Your ego becomes as small as a spark before a sun. And what emerges in its place is the eternal witness, pure consciousness. But this is where wisdom is essential. Because to move the sacrum without preparation, without grounding, can open more than you can hold. The portal does not discriminate. And if there are unhealed wounds, toxic beliefs or unconscious traumas, they too may awaken, not to punish you, but so you may face them. This is why the ancients were silent. Power must be accompanied by direction. That is why every activation must be supported by 3 fundamental principles. First, emotional grounding. You cannot rise if you are not rooted in the earth. Before exploring other realities, make sure your body is a home, not a battlefield. The movement of the sacrum becomes far more effective when it is in dialogue with your breath, your heart, and your emotional stability. Second, clear intention. The sacrum responds to intention. It is not a machine, it is a living altar. Moving it without awareness is like lighting a fire in the dark, without knowing what you're looking for. Define your purpose. Are you seeking clarity, healing, vision? Be honest, and the portal will respond with the corresponding vibration. Third, ritual containment. The sages knew that every portal requires a frame. The space where you perform this practice must be sacred, even if it is simple. Turn off distractions. Create a circle of energy with your personal elements. Stones, symbols, fire, water. That container protects, amplifies, and organizes the activated energy. This technique is not only for spiritual explorers, it is for anyone ready to remember that the body is not a prison for the soul, but its access point. And the sacrum, that silent and steady bone, is the hinge of that door. When it moves with awareness, the soul doesn't travel. It returns. It returns to its origin, to its voice, to its inner knowing. And you who dwell within it begin to see with eyes that are not physical and to hear the world behind the world. At the moment you realize that your body is not just matter, but a living temple, your entire relationship with it changes. What once felt automatic, walking, sitting, breathing, begins to take on a different, almost ritualistic meaning. Because it's no longer about living to survive, but about inhabiting yourself with awareness, turning each gesture into a tool for awakening. And if you've made it this far, if this knowledge resonates in you like a bell ringing from within, then the time has come to do more than listen. It's time to practice. Sacral movement is not a technique reserved for initiates in caves or monks in isolation. It is a tool you can integrate into your daily life, if done with intention, respect, and consistency. Here are 5 practical ways you can incorporate this wisdom into your routine, without having to change your entire life, but allowing your life to change from the inside out. First, create your daily sacred moment. You don't need an hour. Sometimes 7 minutes upon waking or before bed is enough. Find a quiet space. Stand or sit with a straight spine. Close your eyes and bring your attention to the sacrum. Breathe into it. Then begin to make gentle, circular, wave-like pelvic movements. Don't think, feel. This moment should become your daily sanctuary, your meeting with the body and soul. Second, walk with sacred awareness. What if every step were a drumbeat resonating from your base? Walking can become a sacred practice if you bring awareness to your sacrum. Feel how it moves with every step. Do it slowly. Imagine you're drawing an invisible pattern on the ground. This practice turns something as common as walking into a portal of connection. Third, listen to tribal music and let your body respond. Certain rhythms, especially shamanic drums or ancestral sounds, are designed to awaken the intelligence of the body. When you listen and allow your sacrum to move with them, without forcing, without thinking, you come into sync with an ancient frequency. The body knows what to do, and if you give it permission. Fourth, integrate the movement before key moments. Before public speaking, having an important conversation, or making a difficult decision, move the sacrum. 5 minutes of pelvic activation will bring you back to center, dissolve anxiety, and reconnect instinct with vision. It's a way to align your energy before any significant action. Fifth, turn it into a meditative movement practice. Not everyone can sit still to meditate for an hour, and not everyone needs to. But everyone has a body. If you can't quiet your mind, start by moving your body. Let the sacrum lead a moving meditation. It's possible to enter deep states without being still. Sometimes moving is the best way to enter silence. Remember this: the body is not an obstacle to your spiritual evolution. It is the oldest, purest, most honest tool you possess. The sacrum is its forgotten center, and you, by moving it with reverence, become a dancer between worlds. You don't need to live in isolation or wait for a teacher. Your body is your teacher, your sacrum the key, your life the temple. We've reached the end of this journey, but in truth, we are only at the threshold of the true beginning. Because what you now know, this embodied wisdom you've just remembered, isn't sustained by ideas, but by movement, presence, living vibration. I didn't speak to you of another theory. I didn't offer you a practice to collect. What we shared today is an act of remembrance, a rescue of something that was forgotten, not because it was secret, but because the obvious is often the most easily ignored. The sacrum has been with you since day one. It was the first bone to form in your mother's womb. From it, the spine emerged, and from the spine, everything else. It is the base, the root, the sacred drum that sets the rhythm of your being. It is no coincidence that many traditions called it the throne of the soul, because it is there that consciousness rests when it is still, and it is there that consciousness rises when it is ready to move. Do you remember the times you searched for answers in books, courses, gurus, complex techniques, and still something was missing? Maybe what was missing wasn't information. Maybe it was embodiment, inhabiting your temple, awakening the hidden door. And that door isn't on a distant mountain or in a lost temple. It is in you. It moves with you and it waits. You may feel doubt. Your mind may want to explain everything. A part of you might say, is this real? To that part, simply say, observe, try. Fail to answer, because the truth of the body needs no defense. It reveals itself through direct contact. Moving the sacrum with awareness not only shifts your energy, it transforms the way you see the world. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer survive, you inhabit. You no longer run from yourself, you meet yourself. And that, dear listener, is the true awakening. An awakening that doesn't come from sudden illumination, but from daily practice, moving, feeling, falling, returning, breathing, dancing. Until one day, without realizing it, you're no longer searching for portals, because you have become one. If this message stirred something inside you, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and share this video with those you know are also ready to remember. Because every soul that awakens many more. And in a sleeping world, your movement may be the spark that reignites ancient memories. Thank you for walking this path with me. And always remember, your body is not the vehicle of the soul. It is the soul embodied. And when it moves with devotion, reality itself begins to dance with you.